Welcome back. You're watching 101. We're talking with EasyJet founder and entrepreneur Stelios Haji-Ioannou. Stelios, tell me about the early days of your life as a CEO in your early 20s with your father. You did have to go through some trials because you're, I think, only about 22, 23 years old when there was a disaster with the shipping company, and the tanker, the Haven, was an old tanker, exploded. Some crew were killed, and obviously tons of oil spilt into the Mediterranean. How did you handle that as a young CEO?
Well, let me say it was actually a life-forming experience. It was character-forming experience. I don't think I was prepared for it, but I don't think many people can be prepared about something as dramatic as that. Let me just explain what happened for the benefit of the viewers. This is an oil tanker that actually had an accident. It turned out 10 years later, when the whole thing was adjudicated by the Italian justice, it was a human error. So it wasn't really our fault, but it doesn't matter because 5 people lost their lives, unfortunately, and of course there was pollution. Now, it taught me 2 things. First of all, if you think safety is expensive, try an accident. In the sense that I've learned that it's very, very important, whatever you do in life, whatever business you're in, whatever activities you're in, to actually be safe. And that's a frame of mind. It's a state of mind. It's something you do. You get in a car, you wear a seatbelt. It's that sort of thing. So I've become very safety conscious. The second thing it's taught me is that, and that's the sort of pollution aspect where a lot of people were affected, is that you suddenly become a villain, and I didn't like that. Not many people like being villains, but I particularly detested the fact that all of these people didn't know anything about me. I was this foreign, filthy rich ship owner from another country that suddenly polluted their beach. So that's when I decided, I think, to work on my relationship with the public well before I needed, if I needed, God forbid, ever again. In the sense that, the problem of a shipping company that carries oil is it has no interaction with the public. So I decided that I need to get into consumer-facing businesses to build my relationship with the public. So if, God forbid, ever something goes wrong again, at least you have some goodwill and people understand who you are. It's also given me an environmental conscience in the sense that, the environment, it's not a big factor in some parts of the world, but it is a bigger factor in Britain, for example, at the moment with the airline industry. And at least I can say that I've been thinking about the environment and have some credentials in active environmental protection, at least since the early 90s.
Now, you obviously enjoy business, and it's something that does drive you. What's your long-term goal? What do you want to achieve in the long run?
What's the definition of long run? 5 years? Beyond 10 years? What do you have in mind?
Let's say the time comes and you hang up your boots to retire and you say...
You're talking beyond 10 years.
Right.
I find it difficult to actually do long-term forecasting. In 5 years' time, I roughly have an idea what I want to do and where I want to be, with more easy companies doing better and better in more parts of the world, etc., etc. But if you really ask me, can I see my life 10, 20 years down the road, it's difficult. And I suspect making money will play a smaller and smaller part. I don't want to portray myself as a big philanthropist or anything, but I think when you've reached a certain level of wealth accumulation, a business person should start thinking about how to give it back. And I think that we're already paying a debt to society at the end of the day, in the sense that we make money by selling things to, good services to people, and as we accumulate wealth, we have to start, basically giving it back, repaying it back. And there are different ways of doing that, and one can not help but observe how Bill Gates has actually become not only the world's wealthiest man, but also the world's biggest philanthropist. So it's obvious that he realized exactly the same need to give it back. And in my own small way, I started thinking about how can I give back in education, for example. And I set up 200 scholarships between my 2 universities, the City University and the London School of Economics. I've also done an auction of my private collection of paintings in Greece, and all the proceeds went to a children's charity. I've also contributed to environmental causes. So I think giving back will start occupying a greater percentage of my time, beyond 10 years.
You're obviously in the aviation business, in autos, in telecoms, in all kinds of things, internet and technology. Is there any particular business venture that has so far eluded you?
You mean that I wouldn't do?
Either that you've been thinking, well, now is not the time, something that maybe I don't want to take the risk. I mean, is there anywhere you wouldn't risk your money?
Well, the Easy brand, first of all, I only invest in the Easy brand. So there are many other ways of making money. And we only have to look at oil, for example, in the sense that a lot of people think they're clever because they were invested in oil and the oil went up and made a lot of money, but I would call that luck. But anyway, that's besides the point. So there are many ways to make money that doesn't have anything to do with branding or business building. Now, I'm one of these people that I believe passionately that you have to build a brand, and secondly, that building a business from scratch is the best way to do it. So in deciding where to apply the Easy brand or not, we have some very strict criteria. We have 8 brand values that are on our website, that are there for everybody to see on easy.com, so it's the Easy Group side. And a lot of people come and say, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? And it's almost a difficult situation because these people are almost expecting us to give them money, give them a brand and let them go and start their own business. But of course we can't afford the risk because we can't afford to have the brand fail. So we only focus on consumer-facing businesses that are value for money, that are for the many, not the few. We like innovation and entrepreneurship, but obviously you can't push it too far that you have sort of a disaster in your hands, a financial disaster in your hands. Fun, it has to be fun. We like to think of ourselves as being open and honest. If you take all of these brand values, there are not many businesses you can apply them on. It doesn't go to drilling and drilling oil or gold digging. There are different types of businesses. The other joke I always make is that someone presented to me a good business plan for a chain of funeral homes. And I don't think that's actually suitable for the Easy brand. Yeah, that sort of thing. So here is a long list of things we wouldn't do. Now, let me give you another example of missed opportunities, because when you do a lot of things, obviously, you don't have time to sort of go after every big opportunity. When poker became very popular and some big businesses were built around poker, I looked at it a couple of 3 years ago and I said, well, it's still not 100% sure whether it's legal in the United States. Do I really want to take the risk with a brand?
This is the online poker.
Yeah, online poker, yeah. So, there is an example of, a risk I didn't take that, has paid off for others.
Now, apart from the philanthropy, obviously you say you're shifting more into that and you can see that as a long-term thing. Would you ever consider politics?
No. I'm not interested in politics. I think that politicians have a particularly difficult job for 2 reasons. First of all, to become elected, they need to, and I hope that they will forgive me for saying that, but they need to lie basically to a lot of people. In other words, I can speak my mind. If I think you're right, I'll tell you you're right. If I think you're wrong, I'll tell you you're wrong. The politicians have to always sort of try and please as many voters as they can so they get elected. So sometimes they do the wrong thing knowingly. The other problem I have with the job of a politician is that it has very high peaks but also very low troughs. When you get elected, you're God, and then when you lose the election, you're nobody. Mr. Berlusconi comes to mind recently after he lost his election. Obviously, he has his money to go back to, but I'm sure life will not be as simple now he's lost an election. So I'm not interested in politics.
What about time off? When does Stelios get to kick back and enjoy and actually take a break?
As I said, I enjoy what I do. I love working. I also have the privilege of actually choosing my job, so I can go where I want to be. I come to beautiful places like we're here in Sharm el-Sheikh. Some people believe that starting Easy Cruise was only an excuse for me to spend more time on boats and at sea, which is my if you like. Air was a business for me. I don't particularly enjoy flying. I've never become a pilot. It's a business. The sea is where my passion is. I've always had a boat. I come from a Greek shipping family, so I think Easy Cruise is closer to what I like.
What do you want to be remembered for? What do you think your long-lasting legacy will be?
I think if, God forbid, I were to fall under a bus today, in other words, if we're talking about my legacy today, if my life ended abruptly, it would probably be the guy who sort of made flying affordable for the many in Europe. Now, can I actually change that over the next 20 years and actually be remembered for more things than that? I don't know. It remains to be seen. I'd like to stick to the theme of making things affordable. Hopefully I can make things other things affordable for the millions, whether it's other forms of travel, whether it's other goods and services. But it would be nice also to link it into philanthropy, in the sense that at the end of the day, in many years' time, people will not remember your business performance. They might see the impact of how you gave it back.
Stelios, thank you very much. Stelios Haji-Ioannou, it's good to talk with you. Thank you very much.